So, my therapist and I, we had a meeting recently. And in that meeting, it was mutually agreed upon that we would no longer see each other. Normally, I would suspect it's because he couldn't handle it. But this one is stating that if I tell him any more about my escapades, that he'll report it to the authorities. And in order to protect himself from me, he's distancing himself. And I don't know if I want a therapist that is potentially going to snitch to the police. So, this will be my last tape. I feel weird in a way, because it feels like I just started doing these, but they've done so much for me recently that I just don't know if I really want to give them up. I always feel like shit while I make them, and when I listen to them back, it makes me feel worse. But after I go a couple days without thinking about what I said, I always remember. And for some reason, the memory makes me feel better. I don't know if that's going to be the case today. Picking up where we left off. Mr. Black is now a corpse, and I'm being taken back to prison. 6 months go by in prison, and then it's visiting day. There's a time where people can come up and meet me. Neela never showed, but everyone else did. Danny was first. It was very awkward. I could tell that Danny and I's friendship was pretty much over, but I appreciate the tact he showed for showing up and saying his goodbyes. Told me he was leaving for Russia and he wasn't coming back. Next was Kai. Kai was a lot of fun to talk to that day. Told me about her new job, what was going on with sports in the outside world. Didn't last long though. Only about 10 minutes. Then Bibi showed up. And she stayed as long as she could. We talked about everything. Her going back to work. This new guy she was interested in. New friends. New pets. Started taking a class for, I think she was in a cooking or something class. I don't remember what it was. Something about housekeeping, though. Talked to her for almost an hour. At the end, she told me she was writing a book. A novel. And I was interested, so I asked the name, and she said she wouldn't tell me. Still don't know what it's called. Still don't know if she wrote it. 6 months after that, well, 5 months and a week, I got out of prison. I didn't tell anybody. I had talked to Agatha, the receptionist / therapist of the compound, and I had discovered that I completely and 100% believed Danny and what he said, calling me a steroid-ridden, drug-addicted, alcoholic deathmonger. I think those were his words. Now, when he called me a deathmonger, that's the one that stuck with me the most, because he's right. Everywhere I go, death follows. That's not because I'm just some murderous, highly skilled assassin. It's because I am unlucky as shit. It seems like whatever I do, people around me suffer. So, with that in mind, I had silently decided that I was going to separate myself from everybody. That didn't work out. First day I got out, I ran into BB in a coffee shop, and I forgot about my plans. All I wanted to do was talk to her. Talking to her always made me feel better. Told me about the fact that Danny came to visit recently, and all he did was take her out to dinner and explain that he was getting married, and I do not understand why. I don't understand what the point is of inviting your ex-girlfriend out to dinner just to tell her you're getting hitched. I will never understand his logic, especially since he came from Russia to do it. He's been there, 5 months, and he's already getting married? BB was excited to see me. She was irritated that I didn't call her and let her know I was out, but she was excited to see me. And for some reason that day, she just looked beautiful. Can't describe it. She'd always been a good-looking girl, but that day she just, I don't know. Maybe it was the way her hair was done, or how she was dressed, or maybe it was just the sun hitting her eyes just right. She was just beautiful. I couldn't help myself. I asked her out to drinks. I made sure she knew that it wasn't as a friend before she said yes. It was a date, and she lit up. She said yes, and I picked her up a little later, went to a bar, had a few drinks, had a few laughs. I'd been on a few dates in my life, but none of them were that easy. I always felt like I had to navigate some way to get what I wanted, but I didn't really want anything from her. I just wanted her company. And she was willing to give it. By far, the best date of my entire life to this day. We were there until about 1 in the morning. She got drunk. I didn't. I drove her home, tucked her into bed. And as I tucked her into bed, I looked at her. There was a smile on her face. And for some reason, that was how I wanted to remember her. I stroked her hair for a few moments. I kissed her on the cheek. I left. Kai was in the living room watching a show. I didn't know what to say to her. So, I just walked out. I didn't say bye. I never said bye. That night I packed all my shit, got on a train, went to Iowa, broke all my phones. never spoke to any of them again. To this day, I wish I said something to Kai. I wish I'd said bye. I wish I had said bye to BB, but that night was perfect. And that's what I wanted my last night with her to be. I didn't get to decide whether or not any other night was perfect. It was just going to be perfect or not. And chances are, any night that followed that one would never match it. I don't know for sure. But now I don't have to see her be sad ever again, her be angry ever again, or be hurt ever again. I can remember her knowing that the last night I ever gave her was a good one. And it has to be good enough. I don't have a choice. It has to be good enough. Because if it isn't, then I failed. And because I'm never going to see her again, I'll never, ever get a chance to undo that failure. I've never said it out loud, but to this day, from nearly the time I met her to this day, I have wildly been in love with her. And that's the reason I had to go. Because if I made any more enemies, she would have been target number 1. This tape recorder and BB have a lot in common. I've told you my deepest, darkest secrets. I've revealed myself to you. I've trusted you with all of this. But the biggest thing that we have in common is that I'm going to say goodbye to you. This is my last tape. I don't know where my life is going to go after this. But I do know this. Wherever it goes, at least I won't lead danger into their lives, into her life. I miss her every day. But one day I'll die knowing that I stopped bringing pain on her front doorstep. This is my last tape. You might never hear from me again. And if that's the case, just know that I won. I may be in pain. I may be miserable. But I stopped causing the woman I loved so much agony. And because of that, I won. That was my last tape. Goodbye.